The American Civil War was one of the most defining conflicts in United States history. It was a war over the nation's future, its unity, and the moral question of slavery. Among the most powerful and often overlooked stories of this war is the role played by African American soldiers. Their participation transformed the war itself and reshaped the meaning of freedom and citizenship in America. By the end of the conflict, African American soldiers had proven not only their bravery, but their central role in preserving the Union. Before the Civil War began in 1861, African Americans lived under vastly different conditions depending on where they were born. In the southern states, millions were enslaved and denied basic human rights. In the North, free African Americans still faced discrimination, segregation, and limited economic opportunity. Despite these barriers, Black communities actively resisted slavery through abolitionist movements, education, and self-organization. When war broke out between the Union and the Confederacy, African Americans immediately understood that the conflict would shape their future. Many enslaved people escaped plantations and fled toward Union lines, hoping the war would bring freedom. At the start of the Civil War, African Americans were not allowed to serve as soldiers in the Union Army. Federal law and widespread racism prevented their enlistment. Many white leaders believed African Americans lacked the discipline or courage to fight. Despite this, African Americans contributed in other ways. They worked as laborers, cooks, teamsters, spies, and guides for Union forces. Their knowledge of Southern terrain and Confederate movements proved invaluable. Still, the demand to fight for their own freedom continued to grow. A major turning point came in 1863 with the Emancipation Proclamation. Issued by President Abraham Lincoln, it declared freedom for enslaved people in Confederate-held territories. While limited in immediate effect, it changed the purpose of the war. The conflict was no longer only about preserving the Union, it was now openly about ending slavery. Most importantly, the proclamation allowed African American men to officially enlist in the Union Army and Navy. This decision reshaped the war and the future of the United States. After 1863, African American regiments were organized under the name United States Colored Troops, or USCT. By the end of the war, nearly 180,000 African American soldiers had served in the Union Army. Another 20,000 served in the Navy. These soldiers came from many backgrounds. Some were formerly enslaved men seeking freedom. Others were free Black men from northern states determined to fight for equality. Together, they formed one of the most significant fighting forces of the war. African American soldiers faced serious discrimination even after enlisting. They were often given inferior equipment and harsh assignments. They were usually led by white officers, since Black men were rarely allowed to hold command positions. Pay inequality was one of the most glaring injustices. African American soldiers were paid less than white soldiers for the same service. Many refused their wages in protest until equal pay was finally granted in 1864. Despite these conditions, African American soldiers remained committed to the cause. Their determination reflected their belief that military service was a path to dignity, citizenship, and civil rights. African American troops proved themselves in combat across the war. They fought in major battles and defended key positions under extreme conditions. One of the most famous units was the 54th Massachusetts Infantry Regiment. In 1863, the 54th led a courageous assault on Fort Wagner in South Carolina. Though the attack failed, their bravery shocked the nation and silenced many critics. Their performance helped convince the Union that African American soldiers were vital to victory. Throughout the war, Black troops showed exceptional courage, even when facing brutal treatment if captured. Confederate forces often executed or re-enslaved African American soldiers rather than treating them as prisoners of war. African American soldiers played a crucial role in the Union's success. They guarded supply lines, captured strategic positions, and reinforced depleted Union armies. Their presence allowed white troops to be reassigned to critical fronts. By war's end, African American soldiers made up roughly 10% of the Union Army. Military leaders later acknowledged that without their contribution, Victory would have been far more difficult, if not impossible. When the Civil War ended in 1865, African American soldiers returned to a nation still deeply divided. Although slavery was abolished, equality was far from guaranteed. Many veterans faced violence, discrimination, and economic hardship during Reconstruction. Yet their service laid the foundation for future civil rights struggles. They had proven their loyalty, courage, and claim to full citizenship. Their legacy inspired later generations to continue the fight for justice and equality. African American soldiers were not just participants in the Civil War. They were agents of change who transformed the meaning of freedom in America. Their courage on the battlefield challenged racist beliefs and reshaped the nation's future. The story of the Civil War cannot be fully understood without recognizing their sacrifice and heroism. Their legacy remains a powerful reminder that the fight for freedom has always required bravery, resilience, and hope.